Woke up today.
Welcome to the very first episode of the Talk with the CEO. I'm Darice and I'm joined by my co-host Salsabyl and Athmar. This is the first time having a conversation with our CEO Carol Sasaki, and she is a very special guest that we like having around here. This is our first Talk with the CEO episode of the year, and we're especially grateful to have her join us. She's been indisposed for a while, and we really missed her, but we're so happy she's here today to share her time with us. In this episode, we're going to be diving into a day in the life of our CEO at IHF. We all know that she has dedicated decades to making a difference in the lives of children across the world. And today, we can get a behind the scenes look at what her life daily is like, the challenges she faces, and the impact she continues to make. We are so grateful you are able to join us, Ma. I was a bit nervous for a minute because I saw your message in the group chat, but I'm glad you are here.
Yeah, I was
Thank you
nervous
so
too.
much.
On the ground, nervous.
We're so happy you're here, Ma. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
I'm going
you.
to
I've missed you guys. It's so good to hear your voices. Oh,
We give you a warm welcome. Welcome home.
thank you. Thank you.
So I'm going to have we've had Enikim and I with you. We've had so many conversations with you, but we want to give the floor to Afma and Sasibo to get to know you because they have lots of questions for you. So Afma and Sasibo, the floor is yours.
Well, hello. Yes, Salsabyl speaking. Well, just to begin with, first of all, I know that your birthday passed not long ago. So, first of all, happy belated birthday. I hope it was a wondrous event, and it coincided with the new year.
It was.
So that was wonderful. So, I was just wondering, how did you pass your holidays? Did you have a wonderful Christmas, New Year's? Did you spend it with your family? I'm just curious to see how your break was because I think out of all of us, you were most deserving of a break.
Isabel, thank you. I'm so used to going into kind of lecture mode versus feeling, thinking, sharing mode. I'm lecturing about how you do processing or how you do grants or how you do so this is fun. I get to my let's see, and today is the lunar new year, the
The
Chinese, the
Chinese New
China
Year,
and
absolutely. The
Thailand
year of
and
the
so
snake.
many.
Yes, the year of the
That's
snake,
right.
yes.
That's right. And so that's very relevant to many, many of our children, young and grown, and volunteers. Let's see, holidays. A holiday was spent with my amazing daughter, who I just adore. And she flew in and was here. And in fact, did you know I am looking right now at a vase. There's mountains that I get to look out on, even when I have fallen and I'm in bed. I get to look out on these gorgeous, timeless mountains of the desert, and they're the flowers from Christmas, from Christmas Day. Those flowers are some of them are still blooming. I've never. It's just incredible. Um, the lilies and some of them aren't, but others are. And so I get to look at the flowers and just have her delightful spirit. And then my son David, who is just the joy of my life, and my mother, my inspiration, who I adore. We had them by Zoom, but it was a special day, and we took a walk. And the neighbors, we had someone riding a bike dressed as Santa Claus, greeting everyone, and another family sang Christmas carols. I love the neighborhood feeling. We have a lot of people in this area of the desert that's kind of between Palm Springs and the Salton Sea. It's very hot. But there are a lot of immigrants and people with varied backgrounds, and we have two original peoples reservations here that we're active with. So it's just a real mixture of very wealthy and very poor and everything in between. And unique artists and different ways of thinking, which I love. People with very different points of view from each other living together as neighbors. So Christmas was a delight. I got to go walking, which is difficult for me now, and I'm having to kind of relearn it all. My dream is to be able to bike again, but I got to use the walker and with my daughter with me, and we walked all the way down by the mountains, and that beautiful smell of the minerals and the sage and the cactus, and it was just so nurturing, deep nurturing. So a holiday was lovely, birthday was lovely. Birthday, I got the most precious gift from my darling Anika May and Darice, who are here and had the GLD make this really cute video. What was so funny about the birthday video is it wasn't, when something can be kind of too sweetie sweet, so it feels sticky, and you just want to go yuck, yuck, dun, 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 afterwards, or say a fuck word. You want to say something that kind of makes it not fakey sweet. This was not a um, fakey sweet. They never have done. It was a very sincere, but with that, they did mimicking when I get mad and say, "How many times have I told you this? Did you not write it down? Why did you not write it down? I cannot keep repeating." And it just had me belly laughing out loud because it sounded so much like me and an area of growth that I think since I was not a teenager, I didn't care then. It's a runaway, but since my university days, certainly in my graduate school days, I did not want to react. I didn't want to be reactive versus listening and communicating. And that part of me that gets so frustrated and reacts, especially if I worry about children's welfare being affected or something, and I'm boom, I'm the wind blowing. Um, I find it amazing that on my 70th birthday, I'm still lousy at it. It just seems like, don't you think that if we want to change our personality and we know what we want it to be like, we know what works and doesn't work. Why aren't we perfect by 70 years? I mean, I just, so I think my birthday, I had a real kind of feeling of, all right, this year I'm going to accept that I'm not the peaceful, perfect presence that I always saw myself as being when I'm this age, that I would be this wise, peaceful woman. And I instead am just going to embrace what my son and others have taught me. And that is, how can I love anyone else and not be judgmental of them if I'm unable to do that with myself? And so I think that's the birthday gift I gave to myself this year is I just have to not just say it, but really practice and even delight in the humorous things I can't seem to change about myself after all these long years. So that's how I spent my birthday, and it was lovely, along with talking to some lifetime friends and family.
That's beautiful.
That's
I
that's
love
lovely.
the fact that you can laugh at yourself. Takes
I have
integrity.
to.
But I was going to ask you, so for New Year's, do you have any New Year's resolutions? Since you talked about your birthday resolution about accepting yourself, do you have any specific New Year's resolutions?
To get to know my new body, to get to know this new self that's part of my story, and to kind of rearrange my association with time, because I'm used to being able to work and really enjoying. There's never enough time in the day for all that I want to do and love to do and all that I need to do. And with this, it's part of my story. It's an inherited condition, and I don't want to go into it, but I'm used to being the boss of my body. And certainly from when I was young, even with doing the yoga or hiking or later, doing the famine feeds, I would just say to my body, and I would boss it, I want you to stay in lotus position and don't move and focus on your breath. Or no, we've got to get these heavy maize bags another 2 miles and just keep going. And I was the boss of my body. And I saw very much, even like in a spiritual way, I felt everything is body mind, and within that framework, not realizing it, I went from mind to body, not from body to mind, but from mind to body, thinking discipline kind of with my body from young childhood ballet days has been a big thing. So to have this new relationship where if I do certain things, if I try to rise right away, I will fall down. It won't work. And once I have fallen down, I can tell my muscles, all right, get up. And my mind is telling it, and it won't work. So to almost the even to I have to get to know this new self and to love this new self. And I hope it's not permanent, but I mean, they say it is, but who knows with medicine. But I need to be able to, whether it is or not, it's not going to do any good for myself, the world, or anyone else if I don't learn to love it. And I certainly won't be able to progress if I don't. So that's what it is. And the amount of time it takes to do things, that's been really humbling. And boy, have I been a mean person, not understanding time uh, before now. I would feel frustrated with volunteers that took so long to get something done. And I just thought, why aren't they doing it? That's just not using discipline. That's just not being practical. And my judgment would just kind of come in. And now here I am, and it takes me so long to just do the basics. And I'm realizing, I know time is relative, but I'm realizing I've been very demanding of others, myself, and time itself, kind of pushing and pushing at time. And I have to keep telling myself, there's enough time, Carol. No children are going to die. No children are not going to be rescued because I'm not hurrying in this moment. Focus on what I'm doing. Enjoy what I'm doing, even if I'm not comfortable with how long it's taking me. I'm having to kind of talk to myself almost like I would to one of my IHF children, um, to have that new relationship. So it's humbling, and boy, is it needed by this ego here. So that's my
That's
New Year's vow.
beautiful. Oh, that's a beautiful outlook as well. And I mean, you mentioned the fact that there was this beautiful birthday gift that the IHF gifted you, and you were amazed at it, and you thought it was absolutely beautiful. And I think that I'm very much in the belief that the energy that you put out into the world will be gifted back onto you. And I can actually hear your smile and your laughing through the video, even though we don't have the camera on. Through the audio, I can just imagine your sunny disposition. And so that's a beautiful outlook on life. I agree. I do think that we are our harshest critics. And I myself had visions of myself at this age 10 years ago, and I don't fit into the vision that my past self has had of me.
Very
And I'm
Isn't
still
true.
it
young, but
weird?
yeah, it's
Isn't
very
it weird?
strange.
I
Yeah.
can't. Why is it that we can't just become what we
Yes.
want to become. It's so weird.
Yes, and I mean,
Yeah.
like you said, I mean, I still maybe have some years to go, and I think that when I was, I'm turning 25 this July, and so,
You're
um,
my baby.
I do feel like an adult sometimes. I do feel like a child sometimes, given the circumstance. But I'm actually really happy where I'm at, and I've learned to accept it. I mean, it's a
Oh,
learning curve,
I
and I
love it.
yes, and I do think that especially as women, we're very hard on ourselves. We point out all our flaws, and we
Yes.
don't accept ourselves to say, "Listen, this is what I'm proud of you. I'm satisfied." I think that sometimes we cushion the criticism that we give onto others, but not onto ourselves, and we're very
Isn't that
self-critical.
true? Oh my
Yes, very
gosh,
true.
yes. And if we, no matter what we're doing, even if it's a famine feed, whatever we're doing, even the rescues of the children, if I'm bitter and upset and angry and I'm not able to share happiness, sincere happiness or love, then what am I sharing? We still end up with an angry, upset, bitter world sharing anger, upset, and bitterness. So it's if we can't be happy with ourselves, then how can we share sincere happiness? So it's almost
Mhm.
fundamental, isn't it? But it's so hard.
It's so yeah, but it's I guess it's something that we have to learn as well. Like you said, how can we expect things from others if we don't expect from ourselves? I think that if my friend told me that she feels so ugly today, she feels like a failure, she feels that she hasn't accomplished everything that she wanted to accomplish, I would say, no, 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 you are the most beautiful in my eyes.
Yeah.
But when I have these more, or my mother would tell me that she would say, you're the apple of my eye. She always tells us how proud of us she is.
Yeah.
But I think that we have an issue with internalizing this positive thinking, and I think that especially children can sense it. They're very quick to pick up on it, so I think also working with children allows us um, to be a bit more soft sometimes, that we need to have our child
And
voice.
society doesn't. I
Yes,
mean, so
yes.
even that, where they're saying, well, let's make our motto be better. I'm like, what? you know, how you can be better once you realize how perfect you are just as you are. Your brain will relax and you will learn so much more and be better. It's yeah, society is constantly saying, be this, be that, be this, instead of just enjoy and be happy in the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, how would you define success, Carol? Success and failure in your
I
eyes, how
think
would you
I
define that?
think the greatest art, the most successful accomplishment any human can have is to learn the art of happiness. I don't think there is any.
Mhm.
I, having lived with and known personally royalty, presidents, US, three different presidents intimately, two worked for, having known the wealthiest of the world and the poorest of the world, I see no difference. In this given moment, right now, your ability to be happy in this moment does is the exact same as when you have billions or as when you don't. Your ability in this moment to be in this moment and lose yourself in the smells and the air and the being in this moment isn't going to change no matter how many TVs, cars, houses, or anything else. It's the same ability. So, right now, this moment and how you feel, whether you have billions in the bank or don't have billions in the bank, it does not change that. There is no art to me that is more important.
You mentioned some.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. I agree. That's these are very wise words. And you
Yes.
mentioned you're a very well traveled person. You have so much experience to give to so many different people. I'm curious, since I'm a aspiring globetrotter myself, is there a place, a city, maybe a country that holds a special or a unique, I guess, a place in your heart?
Um, Times in places versus places. I have no favorite place, and that's because some places you arrive and they feel like Shangri La, and what's underneath, it always ends up balancing out. Every place has light and dark and light and dark, just at different currents. And so you experience them at different times and levels. For me, instead, it's certain times in places that are vibrantly alive in me, just like the people. Um, and that's part of that. It entwines with that question of what is success, and success being that ability to be happy and to lose oneself in being able to be and experience being a part of everything. That joy that comes from that, and where giving and helping is not giving and helping, and it's not to be good. It has nothing to do with that at all. It has to do with the amount of happiness and joy it brings one when they feel connected. So in reference to that, I can give you some times and places. 19 Hunan Island in China in 1983. They had not opened yet, but they allowed me to be there. And many of your Aka tribe that were in Thailand, unbeknownst to folks, and surprisingly, were in a part of the Hunan Island, a cousin tribe of it. And so, and had the same traditions, and so I could work with and be a little familiar with. And I ended up getting arrested because there was a reporter who had been given an award by the White House, different award than I had been given, but it was similar enough in the same year, given an award, and was similar enough looking to me in age that they thought it was me. And they thought I was the reporter that had written negatively, and that I was spying on the military base in Hunan Island, which was closed. Hunan Island hadn't opened yet publicly. So I ended up getting arrested and not understanding why, and being kept in this grass hut. And folks came and visited me every day. The birds sang, they sat and talked. They got an old sailor, very old, who had been in the US. And we talked, and he translated for me. And it was the most precious experience. It still stays in me. The simplicity of the hours where there was no one, and I just sat in that, listening to the sounds of the jungle, um, eating foods I had never eaten before. I would have, if someone had said, you're going to eat insects and worms, but you will be, I would go, no, no. And instead, it was all delicious. It was just at the time, historically, and the people I spent that time with, just it's like light shining in through the mist. It's always present. So that's one. Another is in Laos, and that was in the late 80s. And that was when it was my work with nomadic, but it was a nomadic tribe that was they were having problems in terms of survival, as with many. And we finally reached them, but it was with an unexpected cousin tribe to get to the tribe we were trying to get to. And the terror on the chief's face and all of the warriors that were there, coming forth ready to attack me, and the two translators with me. That I have never seen such terror before. They turned and ran. And they ended up, and the process of getting humans to not be afraid of me, who had never seen white skin and blonde hair and blue eyes, and had heard stories that are with many tribes around the world, that there will in the future days be people with eyes like the sky and white skin, and they will steal your traditions and your children from you. And that fear that I had come to do that. And the relationship as it grew has stayed with me. Lao is so, I mean, it's just a amazing culture and past, and so, but it stayed with me because every time I've been afraid working with cartels, working with trafficked children, it taught me something I still don't know how to put into words about the nature of fear and how to get beyond it. It's kind of, we teach people how to interview others in order for them to be incredible at being interviewed themselves when they go for jobs. It's kind of that same thing somehow in having to get them to not be afraid of me. It helped me a lot with fear itself and within me, and especially in my work. So that's another experience that is precious. Japan in the early 80s, Thailand in the early 80s was very, very precious to me. But every country, I mean, Indonesia, um, working with the children and the families living under the freeways and teaching, and my daughter being a part of that. And understanding in Indonesia, as in quite a few countries, the corruption is right on the surface and you see it immediately, and the beauty, the depth underneath, um, and the graciousness. That grows over years and can be, it's kind of a dichotomy. In one sense, you can almost say it's psychopathic in terms of it's as group and you're not caring for the individual. And in the other, it is so gracious and intimate because it's the group and the scenery. So each culture, each country, each culture, Eastern Europe has been fascinating for me, watching the changes that have gone on in Russia and Eastern Europe. The changes around the world over these 40 years have been phenomenal. So each is precious. I think the reason I'm tending to go towards nomadic experiences is not because they were more precious. Though the first time I went out to Pakat and they said, it more than food and hunger, it's water. And talking with the mothers, and each of the experiences, perhaps the reason the nomadic feels most precious is only because that's vanishing. And I have, it feels like death of a loved one, those tribes that have died out and dispersed into cities and no longer are together as a tribe, and the culture loss. And because they didn't have written languages, and language keeps a culture alive. I have, I think that's why they come to mind in terms of most precious. Isn't because they are most precious, because that's not the case, but they're precious as in they're vanishing. That helps me in life. If I'm feeling overwhelmed and tired, sometimes I say, all right, how would I feel about this moment if it was 50 years from now and I'm looking back at it sentimentally, or if I'm about to die and I'm looking back at this moment, and suddenly that moment, even if the knees are swollen like now from falling, or whatever the experience is, or someone's yelling at me, it suddenly feels precious in whatever it's going to be teaching me and just the experience. I think it's kind of like that for me with areas where I worked with nomadic, not because they were more precious to experience, no, but just because of the impermanence. Does that
Profound.
answer?
Yes, that is absolutely profound. More than answers or questions. That's very interesting because speaking on happiness, as you mentioned before, I remember reading a study that said that the happiest people in the world were the ones who had the deepest, closest relationships in their lives, you know, family members, and friends. And I think it can also kind of, as you said, extend to strangers, people that you meet in your life. You know, it might be instantaneous, it might be, you know, something that you just pass through, but either way, they touch your heart.
I agree. I agree. And isn't we're talking about love, connection, the connection between us. I know my biggest thing is asking love, whatever that is that I don't seem capable of. Um, Please love this thing that suddenly you feel. And when you feel it for a person or you feel it for anything, a baby, anything, it spreads and you now are more loving to everyone. So please, love, help me to love. Oh, love, help me to love. Because that's when I feel loving, that creamy, overly sweet cake word, cliche word, but yet every time in my life when I have felt happiest and full of joy and able to share joy, has been when I have felt loving. And that weird thing about love is if you love just one person or one thing, it turns easily into hate or obsessive wanting to control so you don't lose it. And yet, the nature of love, when you love something, it spreads and you just start loving everything. I don't know why. The plastic bag suddenly is just so cute. It's just, yeah, I agree with what you say. It is the nature of it, that connectedness and what we call love or connected or whatever it is, it does connect with happiness. It's certainly my times in life for myself. I don't know about for others. And I don't think there's any right or wrong way to feel happiness. I only know people are nicer when they are, and miserable people are mean. That's all I know. So I don't care how they feel happy as long as they're not hurting others. It will help this world. So, yeah, for me, that happiness has been when I have felt that connected to things. I have felt most alive and like life is dimensional. Even the air feels dimensional. Even colors feel alive. It's when I feel that connection in what you're talking about.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful, again, outlook on life and how you see things. And it's absolutely true. I mean, I think that people overuse, especially us Americans, we love to use the word love for
Oh,
everything. I love this new shampoo I'm using. I love this new show I'm watching.
that's
Yeah,
okay.
very true.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Which is
okay.
which
Fall
is
in love with that shampoo and
exactly.
just
We
spread
love
your
that.
love.
Yes, exactly. But I feel like um, we know love when we can feel it.
Yeah.
It's something that when you love someone, when you love something, you truly feel it in your heart and your soul. Like you said, we can sometimes
Yeah.
get angry. We get angry at the people that we love because it comes from a place of caring. Um, and on that notion as well, you talked about, you have so many experiences in your life, and I'm just curious about when you were a child. I guess we all had dreams when we were children about either becoming an astronaut or me becoming an inventor, slash rock star slash engineer, what have you. When you were a child, did you have certain dreams, aspirations? Did you ever see yourself accomplishing all the goals that you have thus far?
Okay, I have to decide whether I want to answer this honestly. It will sound weird if I do. What great questions. I did. When I was little, my mother and others will tell you they would laugh and laugh and don't even know where it came from. But I would play dolls with like having an orphanage, with having many children, with I think where it comes from is my father headed the Northwest YMCA's at that early stage in his career. And so we had people from all over the world coming to the house constantly. And of course, it was, in the 60s with the riots going on and seeing on TV the children being hosed down. And I just would feel like, you mean if I had a different color of skin, but not of hair or eyes, but just of skin, then I could be hosed down and beaten with batons like that. And I remember biting into my arm in my little pink bedroom. And because I just couldn't, probably at that young age, I shouldn't have been sneaking and watching those YMCA films. And I just couldn't fathom it. Of course, it was on the news too. I think that's kind of what begat the extreme, hippie movie and every movement, because it was just too much. And that, okay, we'll be bombed any day. In in school, you have the little, you just go under your desk and you put on the green mask for when they bomb. And it's similar is happening now, actually, with climate crisis and
Yes.
reaction. Yeah, it's interesting. So in me, right from very young, was that feeling. And then when I think I had started kindergarten. No, I was in preschool. Um, I got in trouble in preschool and I cut everyone's hair off and they thought it looked neat. So more got in line and wanted me to. So I got in trouble. And it was during that preschool year, I was on the swing set and an airplane went above me. And I just remember, you know how your tummy go kind of sizzle as you go up on the swing when you're little, and it goes you, and then you go down, and that's what you love about swinging when you're little. I remember as I was getting that sizzle going up, I remember thinking, I'll get that on the planes when I'm traveling and I'm with all the kids. And that feeling and moment stayed with me. And I went after swinging to the sandbox and sat, and I can feel the warmth and the sand and sitting there. That San Mateo moment and feeling has stayed with me, just like the moment of looking at the light in the leaves and thinking, no matter what happens in my life, I need to always remember this light in the leaves, and that will always make me feel good. It was a feeling and a knowing, like a magnet, a calling. So it's always been there. Even when I ran away from home with my godfather, doing the sexual, and he was a psychologist who was very renowned and published and awarded. And so I didn't think anyone would believe me. So I just left. Even during those years, I still had the feeling of, but wait, I'm not going to die because I'm going to be on the plane and I'm going to be with the children. So it was kind of I don't like saying that because for many people and normal, including my own children and most people, it is very normal to change what you want to do 1,000 times. And I love it when people do. I think it's gorgeous. Swallow every different flavor that you want to, because if you pretend to want something because others want you to want it, or it somehow defines you as good or bad or something, then you're never going to be real. And if you're not real, how can your happiness ever be real? And then you'll think, why do I feel empty? So I don't want to really answer it honestly because I want people to blossom their uniqueness and do 10,000 different tastes and bites, and then this one is the one I want to do more of, and now maybe I want to do this one more of. I love that. So I don't let my answer, while it's the truth for me, be an example, because I don't think it's a good one.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think it's almost like you had a greater power guiding you to your courageous self. And thank you so much for sharing some of these personal details as well, because as hard as it is for you to share, I think so many people can resonate with it as well.
It's interesting because it brings us to the purpose of IHF. One of my frustrations, I was accepted full scholarship to Harvard, and they were going to pay for my home program in the US and everything else. And I ended up working for the White House instead. But my passion was, why is there not a program that teaches you how to start your nonprofit, how to work with the poor, how to find out what's needed most from we need a program with a title and a degree for that, not that it's economics associated with it. Or I ended up combining education and international studies as my degrees. But I want something that, and I think that was kind of behind me, even though IHF was, the last of my four things that are going. I think it's that passion, that and belief, deep belief, that this world is so full. I know it from having been a runaway myself, so full of good people of all different political beliefs that would help if they knew practical ways to fit it into their very busy lives. So it's interesting that it does bring us kind of to even the birth of IHF and why we want to keep it kind of small but effective. Yeah.
Absolutely. And is there a specific song or book that you can maybe even recommend to us viewers that helped you keep that inspiration as well? I don't know if there's a specific book, for example, that kind of appeal to you even now, even a story or a fairy tale or a song that has also kind of kept that passion alive?
Well, the Velveteen Rabbit, I used to read to my kids, and the
Oh, yeah,
Runaway
beautiful.
Rabbit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they love those too, and they happen to be rabbits. I have no idea why. But the Runaway Rabbit is where, I'm going to run away if okay, and no matter where you are, I will find you and I love you. And the Velveteen Rabbit is that wonderful, it's a kind of a wabi-sabi Japanese belief that there is no such thing as perfection, and perfection and the seeking of it can actually be the greatest imperfection, and that beauty lies in imperfection, and that is perfection. And I think that Velveteen Rabbit story, for that reason, are stories that I love to do with the children and have been written in many languages and versions, many stories that are acted out with your nomadic tribes. It's not written stories, they're acted uh, around the fireplace, around the campfire. They're acted, and that everyone does the same acting and takes on male and female and different roles. They all have a chance to play in acting their history to keep it alive. And there are different versions of the runaway baby rabbit and the Velveteen Rabbit. So I think those are stories that resonate with children and self. I could go into a zillion novels. For songs, oh my goodness, there are so many songs. Um, I love Vivaldi's Four Seasons. Well, tis a gift to be simple. Tis a gift to be plain. I love that. Round around and back to the same place again. I love the old folk song. Tis a gift to be simple. But I think the problem with saying something like that and saying a favorite song or book, though, is at the same time, I'm a rebel. I'm still the runaway and always. So if someone tells me, Carol, you must be simple, I'm going to want to complex it as much as I can because that's my freedom. So
And
I
you
kind
grow
of,
also as a person. I mean, what was your favorite song maybe 10 years ago? Maybe today isn't.
exactly. Exactly. So to say any favorite song or any favorite book, um, the rebel in me will say, "Yeah, but I love just the opposite." Also here, so it's not easy to do that. I'll contradict myself. I rebel against myself constantly. Do you do that? I'll make a schedule for myself to get done stuff, and then I rebel against the schedule I made. Yeah.
I know it's interesting because I think that especially as a teenager or as a kid, my mom would tell me things that I obviously as an adult now I know is true, it's good for me, and it was for my own good. But again, I think it's just normal for us human beings to say, I'm gonna do the opposite, even if it's true, like eat your vegetables, go to sleep,
Yes.
be kind
Yes.
to people. As an adult, you're like, absolutely, but as a kid, you're like, no. There's that
Yeah.
little rebellion in all
Yes.
of us, I think.
Yes. And if I have no one to rebel against, I do it against myself. Yeah. It's just
Why
fun to
not? Yeah,
rebel.
it's you challenge yourself. I think that's good too. We
Yeah.
thrive in challenge.
That's the part of us that now I'm so happy to not be traveling, but for 40 years was several times a year traveling the globe and every corner of this world, and just loving um, the experiences and everyone. I think it's that same thing of give me a boundary and I'm going to try to leap over it. It's give me. Yeah. Oh, you're delightful.
That's, of course, I agree as well. And I'm curious because we're on the topic of something light, maybe something that changes as well. But I think you mentioned very briefly about something about food is something that we can all agree that everyone has maybe a favorite food or maybe not favorite in the term of something that you would eat every single day, obviously, but maybe a food that has a special place in your heart. I think that when I think of my favorite foods, growing up is that it was made with love. So it was something that my mother made me. And let's say there's certain childhood dishes that I ate that I remember when eating when I was 7 or 8 years old. And it was specifically because my mother made it and her secret ingredient was love. So is there maybe a food that maybe struck you as something absolutely maybe delicious or maybe has a relation to a memory or something maybe that your mother made you? I'm just curious to see about your opinion on food. It's a question that we ask quite a lot on this IHF podcast. We ask a lot about food. We're foodies here.
Yes,
We're very
for
curious.
sure.
Oh my goodness. I've had to because, I've done years and years of famine feeds and living with nomadic and doing famine feeds. I think my food, I used to be very much into food and cooking, but you have to kind of turn off, which is easy to do when you're in new environments because your senses are overwhelmed by all the new senses it's taking in and your brain is trying to file. So it's very hard to do if you're in your same environment. But I've kind of very flexible with food now and not, for example, can't stand ugali in Kenya, um, and it's like, oh my God, this is white paste. I cannot live off of this. And now I miss ugali, and everyone, oh my God, are you kidding me? Because as you said, we associate food with experience. The jumbo juice in Indonesia, out of all the incredible, delicious foods, I think the jumbo juice is my favorite because after we'd get done teaching the classes and the kids and doing the workshops with the volunteers, we would get together, and from the little children who are now middle aged, but they were little children then, we would go skipping to the street vendor singing jumbo jumbo, going to get some jumbo juice, a jumbo jumbo, going to get some jumbo juice, and we go skipping down the street, and then we'd have our jumbo juice under the stars in the moonlight. And I miss that, and I love jumbo juice for that reason. Right now, where I am, it's a unique situation these past years. So I don't have a stove and I can't do cooking, which I'm very used to from the nomadic living, but it's changed the foods that I can eat. Um, but it's whatever's going on. I love, um, gosh, and if I'm in Japan, I love the sushi. I love in Thailand. I love, oh, the sticky rice and mango for dessert. I love in Bali. I love the ginger tea. Um, it can go, it kind of depends on the country I'm in. Um, but I think my favorite foods, like I used to have, I just, I don't have them. It doesn't, but yeah, no. Sorry, I can't answer that question.
Do you have like a nostalgic candy bar or a chocolate bar from your childhood that you, every time that you see it, you kind of just get transported back with flashbacks?
Um,
Or maybe a dessert? I'm not sure if that.
yeah, I started cooking for my family very young. So I did the cooking a lot because my mother was working. I'm trying to, and then I left home, and then it was street food. I don't think so. I can't do dark chocolates. And
Really?
so I could say I love dark chocolate, but I will get the headache afterwards. But that's probably why I love it. So I can only have
Are you
a
allergic?
little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't known why since I was young. It's like an allergy. I get a headache and we don't know
Yes,
why.
that's
I've never
actually,
known
yeah,
why, and
there
yet
are
I
some
love
people,
it.
yeah, there are some
Yeah,
people who are allergic to chocolate. It's, I think the
yeah,
flavonoid, and they say that they get a migraine after eating it or even smelling it in the air.
yeah, yeah. I can get
Yeah.
in those days when I was young and had periods and hated them, and now have the joy of not having them, but realize that was, being youth. I used to have to be really careful. Let's see. Um, my mother's fresh lemon pie. I don't. The answer is I don't. We used to, yeah, I don't because we had enough visitors from all over with the YMCA folks coming. And then my mother started a program, which is national now for displaced homemakers. Oh, that's my next meeting. And that brought in a lot of different, we had a lot of different foods. I don't have a favorite food. Isn't that interesting? I realize I don't. Isn't that funny?
That's interesting. Well,
It
that's just
is
how flexible you
interesting.
are.
That's curious to me
You're
that
not
I
attached
don't.
to anything. That's good,
No,
actually.
I don't know. I don't know. But
Yeah,
I'm trying really hard to think of, is there a food I crave? Is there I'm sorry, I can't answer that question. That's going to ring in me
interesting.
now. That's going to
Yeah.
be a bell
Because I know
ringing.
that that's a question that a lot of people ask for, if you were on death row and you had to eat your last meal, what would you
What
eat?
would it be? Okay,
Yeah,
that's a good way to
that's
word it.
interesting.
What would be my last meal? I have no idea. I truly don't. Isn't that funny? No idea.
Yeah.
Probably whatever you've cooked for tonight. I don't know.
Whatever's in
I
season, whatever's local. Yeah.
I think in order to do the work that I did, I turned off that part because otherwise it would have been hard to be without certain foods, and every place has really delicious food. So I think from just so many years of living all over, but I don't know why. Maybe it's just weirdo me. Who knows? No, I don't know what my favorite food is. That's so funny.
Thank you for sharing.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
feel
it's
like
good.
I feel like the
You can
student
think
flunk
about it now
the
at 3
student
a.m. in the
flunked her
morning.
test. Yeah.
Lying in bed, you can think about that.
Yeah. I know if I can tell you by country, if I'm in Bali, I love mangosteens or rambutans. If we talk about particular countries, I can then say the things I love in that country. But yeah. Well, thank you so much. This has been a joy, very unique and very delightful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us. It's a pleasure to meet you.
It was an
And
absolute
you.
pleasure to hear all your experiences and just to have this also. We have so many goals in the future, but to hear someone who's so satisfied with everything that they've done and aspires to do so much more in the future as well, it's super inspiring for newbies like ourselves who have so many goals in the future, but are unsure if we'll be able to attain them. And you've kind of explained to us that it doesn't really matter that every single year you have to accept yourself, and it's fine if you have accomplished something. You can always work on your new self, whether you're 25 or 35 or 75. So I think it's been an absolute treat to have you on here, as it is every single time you grace us with your presence in this podcast.
Oh, thank you. And yay. Who knows how your story is going to unfold and what current and winds it will fly on. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Goodbye.
darlings. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow, that was such a fun and insightful conversation, Carol. Thank you for sharing a glimpse into your daily lives and some of your personal favorites with us. It's always great to hear these little details that make you you. And a very big thank you to my amazing co-hosts, Salsabyl and Athmar, for leading such a great discussion. And to our listeners, we hope you enjoyed this lighthearted chat with our CEO. If you did, don't forget to share this episode and stay tuned for more conversations with inspiring people at IHF. Until next time, this has been Talk with the CEO. See you in the next episode.